Welcome everybody to the Maddie's Million Pet Challenge webinar. We're going to talk to you today about our brand new grant opportunities. I'm going to introduce our team. My name is Dr. Sarah Pisano with Team Shelter USA. We have Cameron Moore here from the University of Florida, Maddie's Shelter Medicine program. Cameron's going to be behind the scenes. She's going to be in the chat, and at the end, you're going to have an opportunity to ask your questions, so feel free to put those in the chat or the Q&A. We have Amy St. Arnaud from Open Door Veterinary Collective and Dr. Cindy Delaney from UC Davis Correct Shelter Medicine program. So these are our 4 organizations that are represented here. And we have just a quick, really exciting video for you. Every time I see that video, it makes me feel like popping champagne and dancing. So we are so excited to talk to you about what's next for the Million Cat Challenge. It is Maddie's Million Pet Challenge. Thanks to Maddie's. We are so grateful to #Maddie. So Million Pet Challenge has 4 major parts. Our website that you can go on now and look at the grant opportunities is maddiesmillionpetchallenge.org. We're going to talk to you today about these 4 different parts: Learniverse at UC Davis, shelter consults with Team Shelter USA and the University of Florida, clinic consults with Open Door Veterinary Collective, and then special programming. So we're going to start off with Learniverse.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what we've got going on. So I am Dr. Cindy Delaney, and I am part of the UC Davis Correct Shelter Medicine program. And we are so excited to be joining in with this Maddie's Million Pet Challenge as the next evolution after the Million Cat Challenge. And as Sarah mentioned, we do have a main website you can visit here. We'll drop that address in the chat for you. And of course, this is all so much thanks to Maddie and Maddie's Fund. So we are super excited to announce from the UC Davis end of things that we are beginning a brand new program through Maddie's Million Pet Challenge called the Learniverse. And so what exactly is this amazing thing that we are starting? So the Learniverse, we are envisioning as a very special place. It is going to be an interactive online community. And you're going to be able to learn about the animal sheltering industry and new advances and new things that are working for people in that community feel, using subject matter experts to help lead the discussion and also to act as coaches for people in our offerings so that you have someone leading and supporting in the effort. And it's also going to be really about your peers, because we think that it's so important for us to all share information and work together to see what's going to work well and help us to feel supported in what we're doing. And there's going to be a lot of testing of assumptions and looking at new ideas and making sure that we think they are the best thing we could be doing. And then really focusing on implementing, because it's great to have a lot of knowledge, but if you don't actually implement it, you're not going to get nearly as far. So we want to help you to meet your goals. And we like to think of this whole effort as a place where knowing meets doing. So we've got a couple of different types of offerings of what we're going to be doing. And the first one is what we call a boot camp. And we love boot camps. We've been doing these for a while, and we've been learning as we go and trying to make them better and better. And the idea is they are cohort-based. They're uniting the sheltering community. We use a model that we call all teach, all learn, so that we're all being active participants in what's going on. It's really peer support centered so that you're not in it alone. You have other people telling you what's working for them. And it's an interactive learning experience with those expert coaches. These boot camps will allow you to dive deep into a topic and they'll be between 2 to 6 weeks, depending on what's being covered. They include online content and also live calls. So you'll be on a call in a Zoom room with your peers and with your coach. They are definitely implementation focused, and it allows you to get some personalized coaching both during and after the boot camp. So that's one half of what we're going to be doing, and it's super exciting, and we love this idea. We're also going to be doing self-paced on-demand training. We're calling those spot mods. And these are because we know you're busy. We know that sometimes a boot camp isn't what you're ready for or needing. These will also be online, but they will be self-paced and they'll be on demand. They're going to be topic focused, so a little bit more narrow and focused. And we're going to really carefully curate content so that you don't have to go out and find it yourself, but you can find the best and most efficient way to use your time. They will also be implementation focused because we think this is important, and they'll be led by expert coaches. It's going to be what you need when you need it is our goal here. The other nice benefit of these is that our coaches are going to offer optional office hours where you can hop in a room with a coach, or one-on-one meetings where you can meet with them and discuss your own situation, your shelter, and your own challenges. But wait, there's more. So we're also going to be really leveraging Maddie's Pet Forum as a place for our discussion groups. So each of our offerings will have its own private discussion group where you, your coach, and the others in the class have a space to talk back and forth, share information. If you're working on something for your coach, you're going to be able to post it there and get feedback. And we're going to be using Maddie's University to host all of our courses. So the spot modules will be listed there and you'll be able to enroll. The boot camps, you will have to go through an application process because those have more limited enrollment. We want to form those groups very carefully with people who are going to really be able to learn from each other. So we'll have separate private boot camp groups within the university where you can find all of your course materials. And so we have 2 exciting boot camps that are about to start that we want to be sure you knew about. So our first one is our 4 Rights Boot Camp. We're going to talk about all things related to the 4 rights. That one's coming up really soon. So if you want to get into that one that starts in March, you actually have to have your application in by tomorrow. So February 4th, which is tomorrow. So do not delay if you want to get your application in. If you don't make it in, we will save your information and put you on a waiting list for our next session of that. And then our other offering is a behavior training and enrichment boot camp. And that one will start at the end of February. And the enrollment deadline for that one, the application deadline is the 18th of this month. So just a little more about 4 Rights Boot Camp. We're really excited. We love this concept of the 4 rights. We're bringing it into the entire Maddie's Pet Challenge. And so this one, you're going to have about 6 weeks of really in-depth content, starting out with renewing your purpose, and then going through each of the rights week by week to figure out what they mean for you and your shelter and how you can improve operations, offer new programming to help you really meet these rights. And then the very end of the boot camp, we're going to wrap up helping you to find your own roadmap to change. So again, that one does have an application deadline of tomorrow. So be sure and apply if you have any interest in that, and then look for additional sessions of that one in the months to come. And the behavior training and enrichment boot camp, this one should be a ton of fun, a lot of learning and a lot of implementation. This one's 4 weeks of real content, about a week at the beginning to get us all on board. And then it's going to end up with a capstone week where we're going to help you determine what you need to get these programs in place and successful at your shelter, and even help with the grant writing process if what you need is funding to help with your efforts. So we're going to cover all things behavior and training, from fear-free training, humane housing and team training, through housing enrichment and play groups, pathways, assessing animals and decision-making, and training behavior modification and improving outcomes in the shelter setting. So it should be a lot of fun. I'm the coach for this one, and this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. So I would love to see you in this boot camp. So if you have an interest in one of these boot camps or in learning more about the Learniverse, go ahead and head on over to our website. And we have these little application forms once you drill down on what you're interested in. And we are just beginning this new journey. So we would love to hear from you. If you have ideas for a great boot camp or a great spot mod, send us an email. This is our email address, and we can drop that in the chat, hopefully. And it's learniverse@sheltermedportal.com. So we look forward to hearing from you there. And then the next thing that we actually have coming up that is not limited enrollment is a set of webinars. We have an overview of the 4 rights with Dr. Kate Hurley coming up on March 4th. Then we have a deep dive into each of the rights, 1 week at a time, every other week actually. And we'll have one registration link for all 4 of those. So we're going to cover the right place with Dr. Carson and Dr. Aziz on April 12th. We're going to cover the right time with myself and Dr. Kate Hurley on April 26th. We're going to cover right care with Dr. Aziz and Dr. Wagner on May 10th. And then we're going to finish it up with the right outcome with Dr. Carson and Dr. Hurley on May 24th. So we would love to see you in those webinars so you can hear all about this concept of all of the rights that we hope to implement in animal sheltering. And we should have some links for you in the chat or after the fact. So I am so glad you guys are here and learning about this whole Maddie's Million Pet Challenge. And that is it for the opening part of our Learniverse information. And I will hand it off to Sarah now. So Sarah, it's all yours.
Thank you, Dr. Delaney, for that incredibly fancy, informative, and exciting PowerPoint presentation. That was amazing. So you may have noticed that when you first looked at the logo, it looks like the Million Cat logo. We did that on purpose, but you'll also notice that there's a dog in there. And that's because the Million Cat Challenge decided to be more inclusive. So it does include dogs. That's for all our program, across all of our programs. And we also added access to care, which is near and dear to all of our hearts. That is my dog Potato on her adoption. That's her adoption party picture. Last year, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the shelter consults, and we have a couple of different types of consults. One is a comprehensive shelter consult. So that is one where we look at everything from public policy, ordinances, legislation, anything in the works, what's happening in your community, what are the safety net options, if there are any, as they're related to intake policies? Is there an effective population management strategy if animals do enter the shelter? But hopefully, and where we want to help shelters get is we are using the shelter as the very last resort when we don't have any other options. We are looking to create communities that are more community-centric and foster-centric as opposed to shelter-centric. But if they do go in the shelter, we want to make sure we get them out as quickly as possible. And while they're in the shelter, they think it's fear-free summer camp and all kinds of fun. To the shortest length of stay and all those amazing live outcome programs I know so many of you are doing already. So what this entails, and people often ask us, well, that's great. What does that look like? So if you're selected for one of these pro bono shelter consults, we do research prior to coming to visit your community and your shelter. And then we schedule a mutually agreed upon time where we do visit. We often have mentees with us who are students or veterinarians. So we sometimes have a group. We always love to talk to your community. And historically, before COVID, we did in-person community presentations and talked about just these general best practices that we're all in agreement on, but maybe there's been miscommunication. And we've had a couple of hundred people at those presentations. And it's really been universally unifying and really engaging for the community. And we invite everyone. So since COVID, we've done these in different ways. Sometimes it's a YouTube presentation, sometimes it's a Facebook Live, but we still want to get that message out in an effort to help get your shelter support. After the visit, we do give you a written report that's an addendum to the best practice playbook, which is something that would also be getting if you had this opportunity. And the report is really specific to your shelter and community and speaks to those individual things and steps that we think that you should do to help you get to the next level. And then when you digested the report a few weeks later, or whenever that might be, we do have a follow-up meeting, and we simply try to help you implement those recommendations however we can. Maybe it's introducing you to shelters who have had the same struggles and are now doing things differently. Maybe it's help with finding grant money. We always say, and sometimes people make fun of us because we are not direct funders. However, when I look at our history, we've helped shelters get over $5 million in funding. But that's just because we know how to steer shelters in the right direction. And we also are asked by funders sometimes, like, about what those funders should fund. So we do know that you need the right support for the right programs, and we're there to help you for a year after the assessment. So for Maddie's Million Pet Challenge, we have a total of 16 assessments that are available. Our goal for 8 of those is that they are not just the comprehensive shelter assessment, but also looking at a clinic who wants to do an access to care clinic. In so many, and most of the consults that we've done in the last couple of years, there was great interest in an access to care clinic. We want to create this holistic animal welfare model in every community. So we will be prioritizing communities who are ready for both a shelter consult and ready to open an open door consult as well. So I'm going to turn this over now to Amy St. Arnaud, and she is the founder, and she's going to tell you all the exciting things that you need to know about the open door model. So take it away, Amy.
Thank you, Sarah. I just really wanted to start out. I think we already know access to care is a big issue, but the AVMA Summit in 2020 identified access to vet care as the most significant animal welfare crisis facing us right now. 1 in 4 people have experienced a barrier in the last 2 years, and this is increasing. So we go to the next slide. We often think that it's just low-income people who are facing this, and I often hear, and I'm sure you all have heard this as well, if they can't afford a pet, they shouldn't have one. And it's true, lower-income people do have a harder time overall accessing veterinary care. But now it's expanded. We're seeing that 30% of middle income earners and 15% of high income earners also can't even come up with $2,000 if they had to unexpectedly in 30 days. So your cat is blacked, your dog gets bloat. This is why having the right care at the right time is so important to keep pets in their homes and out of shelters, and why we really wanted to add a veterinary consult component to the Maddie's Million Pet Challenge. So we want to make sure we're addressing this critical issue. So we are offering 8 pro bono consults this year to either help organizations open veterinary clinics, or if you already have one, to convert to this model, which really focuses on a key component, which we'll get into, on increasing access to care while also being sustainable. So applications for this round are due by February 13th. Don't worry, don't panic if you're like, oh my goodness, I can't not get it in that fast. We will have rolling applications later in the year, but this is the first round that's going to be available. So we do believe that all pets deserve and all people deserve access to vet care. But if you go to the next slide, we also think that that means that vet clinics shouldn't have to give their services away. They deserve and need to be able to be paid, because offering vet care is very expensive and we have to pay people more. So we want to make sure that we're providing that vet care. So what we're seeing now is more nonprofits who are stepping in to subsidize, but that isn't sustainable for nonprofits just to raise all this money all the time. We need a sustainable model. So I come from Humane Alliance, where we trained 170 spay-neuter clinics to operate sustainable, high-volume spay-neuter. We found that one of the most important pieces was having someone who could share protocols and templates, or what worked, what didn't. Because you can open a clinic, but just to not have to reinvent the wheel and just have somebody to talk through when you're running into challenges, and just sometimes help you through all of the, am I on the right path? And so what happened is, when we did this and we created a mentorship model, we also ended up with a network of clinics who could support each other. So we thought, could we do this for full service? And so I think, because probably you know already about Team Shelter, you already know about UC Davis, but you probably don't know a lot about what is Open Door Veterinary Collective. So I just wanted to take a second to tell you about what we do. So along with 2 business partners, we opened up 2 full service for-profit veterinary clinics that focus on increasing access. So one's in Toledo, Ohio, and one's in Asheville. And so we really worked to perfect those models so that we could say, hey, we know that this can work and that you can do this. And we're now working with 8 other groups. They're all animal shelters right now who are adding this component on to show them how to implement these key principles into their own practice. So the goal is, if you already have something going, we're just going to help you put it into what you're already doing. So our model can work if you're a nonprofit, a for-profit. The great piece is it can actually generate anywhere between 5 to 30% in revenue. So you can turn around and put that revenue back into more money to help people in need and pets in need. And it's going to take the burden off of you having to fundraise for that all the time and worry about how you're going to cover it just by providing the services. So one of the key elements too is that we are trying to, if you go to the next slide, we are trying to provide a humane workspace for our staff as well, by giving them a way to be able to say yes to providing care and not having to turn clients away or work on economic euthanasia. This is one of the biggest reasons for burnout in the field. And we're already seeing there's such a shortage of veterinarians and techs right now. We have to do everything we can to keep them into the field. So this is a really big piece of what we're going to be talking about. And you'll hear a little bit later some work we're doing with Jessica Dolce on this as well. And it's really about helping make people feel like they have the power to help people and not have to turn them away. So if we go to the next slide, we've really got 5 key components. So one is, we're going to really work with you on offering a variety of payment support options. So payment plans, pay in advance, pet savings, financing plans like scratch pay, medical funds. And we're really going to train your staff on how to have the conversations to remove the financial stigma of people feeling like they can't ask for help or they shouldn't have a pet. So we spend a lot of time on working around those conversations. We also spend a lot of time around, you may have heard incremental care or spectrum of care, working with your veterinary team on how and when to use a step-by-step treatment plan when finances are an issue. So they're still getting quality care, but they're doing it over time so that they can afford that care. And a big piece is goal setting and review. We look at your goals. We help you set those goals. We help you set up a budget. We look at those numbers regularly. We're actually going to work with you over the course of 8 months, which I know sounds a little crazy, but we want to make sure that we're really setting you up for success and up for being able to be financially viable. So we'll work with you on all of that and how to do that. We'll also work with you on operational efficiency. So we're going to show you how to do your schedule, how to use your staff, how to really use your support staff for the best efficiency. And then we're going to work with you on partnerships. How do we develop those partnerships to get social work interns into your program, work with social workers, work between private practices and nonprofits to really how do we build up medical funds and raise money for that? So we're going to work with you on a lot of that stuff. So I just kind of put this slide in here. I know it's got a lot of words on it, but we really wanted to show you some of the things that you're going to get through the training, because it is not just about running a veterinary clinic. Yeah, there's stuff in there about that. And we work with you on protocols, but it's really about thinking about it in a different way of how do we do this? How do we have these conversations? How do we build these partnerships and put these support systems into play for people, so that we can make sure that the veterinarian gets paid and the clients get the care they need. So if we go to the next slide, what we're going to do is, we'll be providing these, we're going to have 10 modules and we're going to have learnings. We'll set you up with a checklist over 8 weeks. We'll have written support as well as one-on-one meetings, and then we'll have Zoom drop-ins. But we're also going to have then, we'll have ongoing access to us, and then you'll be part of a national network. So you'll be able to like actually connect with other clinics doing this. But in order to do this, there is some things that you're going to have to do on your end. So generally, it does take around $500,000 to do this. Now, if you already have your own clinic or you already have all your equipment, great. But if you do need to start it, we do find that it's around $250,000 in equipment and then additional funds in order to be able to get the building and do renovations. So it is that big of a commitment up front. And then you do just have to agree that you're going to be willing to have the right people meet with us for that time when we're meeting for the once a week for 2 months, so really intensive in the beginning, and then meeting additionally for 1 month where we're really talking through the financials and getting you set up for success. And just that you're really willing to look at this model and try some of the options that we're talking about is going to be another big piece, and that you're going to be willing to provide data to us so that we can continue to really look at access to care and make sure that we're setting up for success. So I'm hoping you're ready. I'm hoping you'll want to apply. So we're going to show you where you can apply through the links. And if you have any questions, happy for you to reach out to me directly. And I'm going to turn it back over to Sarah to tell you about some other programs.
Thank you, Amy, for that riveting presentation. So I also wanted to mention, which I think we didn't say in the beginning, some of you might say, oh my gosh, we're not quite ready for the clinic, or we're going to be ready next year or the year after. The Maddie's Million Pet Challenge is actually a 5-year program. So every year we're going to be offering these pro bono opportunities. So it's not the end of the world if you're not ready right now. You'll just know what you need to be working towards. But our special programs have to do with smaller parts of the consult. So targeted consults are for programmatic help. So maybe everything is going great at your shelter, but you need help with adoptions, or it's just with the community cat program piece with shelter medicine or spay neuter or something programmatic that's a single program. So that's one of the things that we are offering. The other thing, as Amy mentioned, is we know that we are all being challenged in ways that we haven't been before. I think some of us in this profession for a long time felt like, ooh, if we didn't have to euthanize for space, we'd be on easy street. Like once we got to that magical over 90%, we wouldn't be stressed. Well, we were wrong about that, right? And we are all still dealing and suffering with compassion fatigue. Jessica Dolce is on our team offering team well-being services. We also link you to other shelters who, like I said, have the same challenges as you and can talk to you about how they met those challenges and never looked back. Haas has a new networking program called Java Likes that you might want to look at too, because it's a great way to network for other shelter staff who are in your same position. But we are all about supporting the team, supporting the entire team, not just the staff, but volunteers as well. The other thing we want to do is make sure that all of these pearls continue to get passed and ripple out to as many shelters as possible. So we invite animal welfare professionals. It could be veterinary students. It could be somebody from a national organization. It might be a veterinarian that's in private practice that wants to learn more about a well-run shelter. We have a mentee program, and so people can join us. We do have a limit per consult, so you just sign up and we try to match you geographically and time-wise, but we love having our mentees and students with us. So you can learn more and apply now at maddiesmillionpetchallenge.org. Like Amy mentioned, the first deadline is February 13th for the consults and the clinic mentorship, and they will be rolling as well. We do want to start selecting community shelters and clinics right after February 13th. But again, this is a 5-year grant. So if this is something that you're just learning about and saying that open door model is right up my alley, you have some time and hopefully can come back next year. So I'm going to actually ask everybody on the panel, Cameron too, to put on your videos, and we have plenty of time now for questions.
Sarah, I think we have a shy bunch here today, so not a whole lot of questions, but we have gotten a few about people who are not necessarily affiliated with the shelter, but want to get involved. What can they do? How can they engage with, their community, and who should they be engaging with?
That's a great question. So first of all, encourage you to go to your shelters, whether they're public or private, and meet with the director. Maybe they don't know. I mean, this is a brand new program, you guys. We literally just launched January 25th. So maybe they don't know about this opportunity, and it's pro bono, right? So they don't have to come up with any funding to get us. We do have clients that pay us directly. And when I say we, I mean Team Shelter and Open Door Veterinary Collective. But this is an opportunity to get us pro bono. So I would encourage you to meet with your shelter directors. If they are on board and maybe they're concerned that their mayor or commissioners wouldn't want this opportunity. Sometimes those elected officials might be nervous, like, well, we don't want anybody coming in and saying we're doing everything wrong, because we've been telling everybody we've been doing everything right. But what you can tell them is that we are a friendly bunch. We are your cheerleaders. We are your supporters. We want nothing more than to help you get better. And the gift we give to the municipality is to help the municipality operate more efficiently. And by the way, for a nonprofit, you have a fiduciary responsibility to work efficiently for your donors and make sure every dollar is used impactfully. So if you are part of the community and not with an organization, that would be the first step. Volunteer, just ask them what they need, and always be on the side of being the helper. The helpers are the ones that get the meetings. Amy, do you want to add anything to that? Talk to your vets.
Well, and so that brings us to, we've got a couple more questions. They're rolling in now. First of all, with this first wave of applications, how quickly will organizations know if they've been selected?
Oh, that's a great question. Our goal is well within 4 weeks of the February 13th deadline, and it'll likely not take that long, but it will not be longer than a month. I just want to go back to that one question, Amy. Don't you agree? Like, talk to your veterinarians, tell them to do the open door model and contact us.
Well, yeah, and that actually one of the questions that came in the Q&A was, what do you do when there's a veterinary shortage? And we already are struggling to find veterinarians. So that is definitely a challenge with this. But one of the things that we think is that in doing this model, we're actually hoping this is going to attract more veterinarians in. So because now they get a chance to be able to not have to turn people away. They've got some more options. They can practice in a different way than they might be able to if they're working in a more structured corporate environment. So we're actually hoping this is going to give veterinarians more incentive to want to participate. So one of the pieces that we can work with you on is giving you some ideas in terms of what to put in your ad, where to place your ad, what to make your job description, how to onboard properly, because all of those things are things that veterinarians are wanting right now, what type of benefits to give. So that is actually part of what we will work with you on while you are looking to hire, as well as looking at floor plans and other things along with you.
And also along the lines for people who aren't affiliated with a shelter, in addition to volunteering and advocating, Maddie's Pet Forum is a great place to get involved with the conversation and see where the needs are. And Maddie's University, most of the courses are open to anyone. You can take the courses. Our boot camps are for shelter groups, but the rest of Maddie's University is open for the most part, and our spot mods through the Learniverse will be open. So there are a lot of resources for you to learn more and get involved, whatever works for you in the area you're most interested in.
Yes.
That's
And
a
along
great-
those, oh, sorry, Amy, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, yeah, along that point too, is that because this is a lot of focused on shelters, and with the open door model, you can either be a shelter doing this, or you can be a standalone clinic or a group that is helping do outreach. So that is the beauty of this too. If it's something you just want to start because you've been doing safety net work and you've been doing outreach, or maybe you've already been doing some spay neuter, you've been doing wellness and you want to go to the next level. So you can be a standalone veterinary clinic, and you can be private practice. You can get your private practice vet to do this, or you can be a nonprofit to do this.
Right.
And Amy, can a spay neuter clinic directly apply if they want to expand to include access to vet care for the community?
Yes, if they're ready to take that on, they absolutely could expand. They can apply to do that.
Okay, and then we have another question that came in. We have a shelter with a single surgery suite, and they're kicking off a capital campaign to expand their clinic. Would you suggest a shelter clinic review prior to completion of the expansion, or wait?
Oh, that's a great question. And I would say 1,000 times yes, get the assessment now, because we have unfortunately been in multi-million-dollar buildings with very serious design issues that could have been prevented. The other thing is, if your programs are not operating efficiently, we can help change those numbers. I'll give you a perfect example. How about this perfect example? Danville Boyle Humane Society in Kentucky. When we started working with them in 2018, they took in 908 cats a year. And so everybody was frantic about where they should put these cats. I'm not going to make you guess how many cats they took in 2021. I'll just tell you, 19 cats. So how differently does my, thank you, no applause, just throw money. So how differently are we going to design for 19 cats versus 908 cats? So it is crucial before you design anything to make sure everything is buttoned up and your programs are working as efficiently as possible. And like I said, you're using your shelter space for those animals that you don't have other alternatives, right? Safety net programs and community cat programs. So amongst a whole other things, but that is a great question. Thank you for asking that.
There's another one. Can a clinic mentorship help nudge a board of directors who are hesitant to open to the public? They're afraid of upsetting local veterinarians.
Yes, and a big piece of what we are actually working on with this is building that bridge, because nonprofits alone can't do this. So we're actually recommending how to make the relationships with private practices and how to refer things back and forth and how to build those bridges. So that is definitely something that we can work with them on and talk to them about how to do that. I will say right now, in the past, there's definitely been a lot of concern from private practices of nonprofits taking on more. Right now, private practices are so crazy busy and overwhelmed. They can't even keep up with what they have. So there's much less resistance, but we would definitely talk through how to help that. So you're setting that up for a good relationship.
And the other amazing thing that's happened at the open door clinics too is that they get referrals from other private practices. So that's what we want. We want this collaboration. I mean, we'd love everybody to do the open door model, but if they're not, I mean, the collaboration is key.
Yeah.
Amy,
we have a great example in Nashville of that. Yeah, how we're working with our local humane society with our clinic, and they work with 50 other clinics in the community. And it's a really great model. They've got some really great data, and we share that.
And Amy, would this model work if the organization had a mobile clinic, a spay neuter mobile van, or does it really need to be a brick and mortar?
It does need to be a brick and mortar. We do side consulting on spay neuter clinics if you're looking for some work on that. But for this model, it really does need to be a brick and mortar.
Dr. Delaney, do you think there is anything else about Learniverse that you want to shout out there so that people know who can apply or who should apply or why they should apply?
Yeah, I mean, for the boot camps, the reason is really to kind of get your full team on board with implementing some new changes and kind of getting a little bit of buy-in so that they're not just hearing about it without understanding the why behind it and not understanding, how we're going to go through the changes together. So it's really good for shelters that are struggling with change or contemplating change or not sure exactly what to do next. So it's just a good model for that. And the spot modules are going to be good for anybody. They're going to be on specific topics. So anybody who wants to just do that in their own time is going to have access to that. And we think that's going to be a really good resource for people, especially having access to the actual coach to ask them specific questions about what's going on in each person's situation. Because sometimes it feels like your situation is very different. And a coach can help you to kind of see the connections and see how it's similar enough that you can implement some things that they've been talking about.
Cameron, I want to also mention with the shelter consults, we do prioritize shelters in need and the larger shelters having a larger need. But we also love to help small shelters when there's several in one region. And so we've done that several times. So if you are in a community and you're like, well, my shelter's so small, I don't know if we would qualify, talk to your neighboring shelters, because we have programs. Well, I've done 2 programs. Cameron and I did one in Kentucky with 8 counties, and I'm doing one with 12 counties. So we would entertain doing more than one county if they were all geographically close. So when we came to visit, we could visit all the shelters. So keep that in mind too.
And I would say, even if you aren't sure, if you work for a nonprofit, you're not sure if your board is going to be on board with this, still reach out, because maybe we can start that conversation and help make them feel more comfortable. Sometimes people aren't sure what the expectations are, or, they always think there's a hidden cost, right? So just definitely reach out. Don't hesitate.
Any other burning questions, Cameron?
No, because again, I think you guys did such a great job explaining everything. I would just say, once again, everybody come to the website, maddiesmillionpetchallenge.org, learn all about it, reach out, ask questions. Yes, we love Canadian shelters and we can help you. So, so reach out. And let me just see if there's anything else. There's, I think, a couple of last minute stuff coming in. But especially, Cindy, for Learniverse too, Canadian shelters definitely can apply, correct? Right? Awesome. So I think we're good.
Great. Well, listen, thank you to Maddie's, of course. Thank you, Allison. Thanks for everybody who joined us today. And thank you to Amy and Dr. Delaney and Cameron for being amazing co-hosts. Thank you so much.